My name is Oluwaseun Marianne Shobande. Today is August 15, 2022. I'm going to be presenting my final project presentation on the splenomegaly syndrome. And I'll go ahead and start. This syndrome is defined as the enlargement of the spleen due to underlying factors. The spleen is a part of our lymphatic system, which helps the immune system by storing white blood cells, helping in the creation of antibodies, and also with the reprocessing old red blood cells. This organ is found on the left side of our body, underneath our rib cage, and responsible for, like I said, antibody-coated bacteria, reprocessing red blood cells, and storing white blood cells. The spleen is extremely important to the body for fighting against infections, and it is where we get our source of both B and T cells that the immune system needs to protect our body from infections. The classification of this disease is based on the pathophysiologic mechanisms, so like congestives caused by pooled blood, infiltrative caused by invasion of cells foreign to the splenic environment, and then splenic environment, and then immune caused by an immunologic activity and subsequent hyperplasia, or neoplastic caused by resident immune cells that originate by a neoplasm. And again, this is just how the splenomegaly syndrome works. It would have multiple underlying factors that can cause it. The etiology for this disease is that it's a liver disease that increases vascular pressure, leading to an increase in the spleen size. And then the hematologic cancers such as lymphomas, leukemias, myeloproliferative disorders can lead to the neoplastic cells infiltrating the spleen. Venous thrombosis is venous thrombosis in the portal or hepatic veins lead to an increase in vascular pressure. Splenic congestion form venous thrombosis, also portal hypertension, and also congestive heart failure. And then infections can be caused by bacterial endocarditis, infectious mononucleosis, and also HIV, along with malaria, tuberculosis, and histocystic cytosis abscess. Then there's connective tissue diseases, including systematic lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, adult onset still diseases, and some like hereditary autoinflammatory syndromes. Now next, I would like to describe what syndrome this disease falls into. So they fall into the splenomegaly syndrome and the hematopoietic system, mainly because the spleen is in charge of the white blood cells, red blood cells, the B and T cells. And so then clinical manifestations would be pain under the upper left rib cage, anemia, fatigue under the rib cage because of the location, pain, fatigue, feeling full without eating, and that's just gonna be when the spleen becomes enlarged, putting pressure against the stomach. You're just not gonna feel the need to eat more, just so you can avoid that inflammatory responses. And then frequent infections and bleeding more easily. The most important diagnostic test in this case based on the results, could be like blood tests such as complete blood count, imaging tests done for checking the spleen size, and also like, well, imaging would be with the ultrasound, x-ray or CAT scans, and also an MRI. And then now I want to explain one differential diagnosis, which would be the hemolytic anemia such as sickle cell disease and thalassemia breakdown. Thalassemia is like a rare gene makeup. And then, so the thalassemia breakdown, blood cells at a higher rate than usual. This leads to the pain in the spleen, and this cannot be replaced. It cannot be replaced as fast as it's broken down, and then this leads to a pain in the spleen because the spleen cannot replace the blood cells as quickly. And then possible complications are going to be, again, pain, anemia, which are going to be the most common complications. And then, however, if the spleen is to rupture, then it can lead to sepsis. And then I just want to go back and explain more on the definition of the splenomegaly. Along with learning more about this disease and syndrome, I'm learning how to say it. So pretty much the spleen gets enlarged due to various underlying factors. We know that the spleen is a part of the lymphatic system, and that in that system, it contributes to the immune system and its inflammatory responses. So that could be with storing white blood cells and helping with the creation of antibodies. And we know that white blood cells, we know that means that the body is working against a intruder. And then with B and T cells, that is going to be produced with antibody reactions.